But it's not enough to tell people, yeah, we are a green company or we are an environmental friendly company. I think you have to really prove your projects with concrete data.
Hi, I'm Lucy, and you're listening to Creator Talks, the Mediaforta podcast. Mediaforta is a marketplace for highly specialised content creators all around the world. Each episode, we interview one of the creators from their network and dig into their craft. This episode, we have Geert, a Flemish business-to-business copywriter and translator. He specialises in sustainability, transport and logistics, healthcare, HR, and finance. Creator Talks by Mediaforta. Mediaforta, the marketplace for highly specialised content creators around the world. Welcome to Creator Talks, Geert. I might need a little help again pronouncing your name. Can you introduce yourself to me?
Hi Lucy, and thanks for having me. I'm Geert van Kouwenbergen. I'm a Flemish B2B copywriter and translator. I'm working now as a freelancer full-time since 2019. And I already started as a freelancer in a secondary occupation in 2008.
It's interesting. So when you, for example, let's say you meet someone at a party, how do you describe what you do?
I would say I work for different niches, for different branches, from logistics to HR. And I try to translate complex texts into texts who are very easy reading for a broad public.
I see. And you specialise in a lot of different topics. So transport and logistics, healthcare, finance.
That's true.
But let's talk a little bit about sustainability. It's becoming so much more important for business. Can you describe a little bit more about what's involved in sustainability? I know it's a broad term.
It's a very, very broad term, indeed. But based on regulation, you have the environmental topic, the social topic, and the governance topic. And you see that more and more stakeholders of companies are putting interest in ESG, so environment, social, and governance, due to regulation. And big multinationals now have to report about their policy in sustainability. That's new to most of the companies nowadays. And for many experts and entrepreneurs, it's very difficult to keep in touch with this legislation.
So that's a really good tip for anyone out there who hasn't been covering their sustainability. They can approach someone like Mediaforta, who's got these experts like you, who are going to be able to give them a head start in the way that they need to be communicating.
Exactly, Lucy. Because now I'm working a few years now for Mediaforta, and you see that Mediaforta has become a knowledge platform for many clients, with so many things that are changing for the clients of Mediaforta. I think it's interesting to put some blogs or a white paper or a video about new sustainable legislation. And that's how clients can keep up.
That makes sense. And so when we're talking about sustainability, I'm assuming it's mostly in your work, business to business. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how do you define sustainability when we're talking about business to business?
For me, sustainability means that as a company, you try to be future-proof as an employer, but also, for example, as a production unit or as a company who is active in logistics or transport. So you create an environment not only for your own employees, but also for all the stakeholders, for clients or suppliers, that is future-proof.
And what do you think, what does future-proofing involve? Isn't that that's a hard thing to do, right? to enable yourself to be future-proof. What kind of steps would you take as would you advise a company to take to be future-proof?
More and more clients and suppliers are willing to work with companies who make efforts for example, a green environment. So also the investors are putting interest in companies who are investing in, for example, reducing its carbon footprint.
I think I get it. I think companies need to be proving that they have a serious long-term goal regarding sustainability for stakeholders. So they need to say, look, this is what we care about. This is what we're putting in place. This is why you can trust us, I suppose. And they need to make that really public because it's becoming a priority for people.
Exactly. It's becoming a priority also due to regulation, to international regulation, also national regulation. For example, you have CSRD reporting, and big companies now have to report about their efforts in sustainability.
And what are some common mistakes companies make in their sustainability messaging?
One of the mistakes they can make is to focus too much on the topics they are realizing in sustainability. But also they have to acknowledge that there are still some challenges to do. So in a sustainability report, it's important to have the mix of successes a company realizes, but also to highlight the challenges they are facing for the future. So it's not a failure when you confirm as a company that there are still some action points to make or some challenges to face.
I suppose. And is any of this got to do with things like B Corp? Have you had to work with I know that's quite popular at the moment, is becoming B Corp certified?
It's a term that's familiar to me, yes.
Yeah. And I think part of that, and perhaps a lot of these things, is it doesn't mean you have to be perfect as a company. It just means you have to recognize what needs to change.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think a second error companies can make is to focus too much on greenwashing. You have to back up your ideas with specific projects. So it's not enough to mention that you are sustainable as a company. I think your actions in sustainability as a company have to be backed up by data. So you have to prove how you are realizing sustainable projects. For example, reducing your carbon footprint with X%.
I see, yeah.
It's not enough to tell people, yeah, we are a green company or we are an environmental friendly company. I think you have to really prove your projects with concrete data.
That's interesting. So tangible goals and being able to say, we're going to try this, we're going to try and reduce this by this %, and then reporting back.
It has to be measurable and tangible, like you say. Yes.
Oh, that makes loads of sense, actually. Because anyone can just talk vaguely about their ambitions, but actually putting themselves on the line and saying, we're gonna try and do this, and we're gonna tell you in a year's time how well we did. I think that is quite impressive. It's gonna inspire confidence.
It has to be more than a promotion stunt, and also it's important for your reputation as a company to prove to the audience, to your stakeholders, that you are realizing concrete projects backed up with data.
And are you personally and I know that it's short-sighted to think of sustainability as in being environmentally friendly, but are you environmentally friendly?
I think I am. When I go to clients, for example, I prefer to take my bicycle instead of my car. I'm a vegetarian, for example. I rarely take a plane to go on.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one, isn't it? That's a big one.
So I'm trying to practice what I preach, and I think that's important.
That is important. Mediaforta, the marketplace for highly specialised content creators around the world. Are there any communities or events you recommend for writers interested in sustainability topics?
There are some really interesting events, for example, organized by Belgian corporate institutions. For example, employer federations like VOCA, who is a Flemish corporation of employers, for example, organizes some really interesting events on sustainability. On the other hand, I think you have also some interesting LinkedIn groups who can inspire people. And of course, on the European websites, for example, of the European Commission, you also have some interesting sources to relate to.
Oh, nice. And what kind of advice would you have for a writer who's new to sustainability but feels quite passionate about the topic? Where might they want to start if that's a topic they want to get into?
My advice can be to dive into some reports of companies who are already performing in a sustainable way. Those reports can be very inspiring. On the other hand, as a writer, as a content creator, I think it's also important to dive in some websites about sustainability. When you receive a request of a client, to communicate in two directions with your client about the tone of voice, about the content of the report, about a blog article.
So I suppose that is probably really important, is to know, to have, and make sure your client tells you who you're talking to and what their background is and what their level of understanding will be with the topic.
Exactly. Because when you talk about sustainability, you have to find a good mix between technical aspect and accessibility. And a report about sustainability has to be interesting to read, has to be inspiring to read also for the reader.
I think that's a really good point. You know, you want to communicate the facts, but you want to, if you can lift people too and make people feel positive, that's, you know, changing emotion is still a really important part of writing, is getting your readers to feel something, even when it's about a company's reports.
That's true. You can compare it with the annual reports companies have to publish each year. Those reports aren't boring anymore or very long. No, it has to be condensed and it has to be inspiring, even scannable on a website. Many companies put their sustainability report also online, and therefore you have to write very short pieces of text. And that can be a challenge as a copywriter, condensing technical information into short messages and short texts.
I see that all the time now, actually, on websites. It's becoming standard, isn't it? If you to represent your company, you need to have what your sustainability policies are, you know, at the bottom of the website, like you'd have terms and conditions, everything. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk a little bit about AI, because I know we're short of time. I'm really interested in organising ideas. I spend a lot of time kind of working with subjects, breaking them down, organising them by topic, by theme. And I have been using AI a lot because I find it's so quick, and it might not give me what I need straight away, but it really opens up the opportunity. It gives me more time to play with some things which would have taken me a lot longer normally. Is it something that you've been working into your workflow?
Yes, I use AI, for example, to suggest me some interview questions or to suggest me an outline of a document, like a white paper, for example. But I also think that although AI can be inspiring, as a freelance copywriter, I think it's important to stay creative, because in my point of view, creativity is a muscle you have to train. And I sometimes have the impression that AI can make you a little bit lazy.
Yeah, I think I agree. It does quite a good job, but I also think it can be tempting to not continue to work your own voice.
Exactly.
And I think that that's a big mistake, because I think people do inherently recognize another human's voice in the written word. And it would be a terrible shame to lose that ability.
I totally agree, because once I had a client who told me, I don't want to pay for a text who is generated by AI, because I need a text with an own personality and a proper tone of voice.
Yeah.
When you depend too much on AI, a text can be too robotic.
I agree. And it also has it can have a feel. You and I, for example, when we write, our writing comes from our experiences condensed, our background, our schooling, what we've done, what we're interested in. But I feel like sometimes AI can just be too generic. It can just lacks character, because it's sort of everybody's character at once almost, due to the way it's trained. But yeah, everybody's getting asked about this. How can you talk about AI in a positive way, but still making your client appreciate that you're bringing a lot of yourself to the table?
That's a good question. I think that AI can be a good tool in digitizing and automating a part of your job. Like, for example, accountants who are using AI for booking invoices, and that gives them the opportunity to gain a lot of time and to give strategic advice to their clients. I think that's the same for us as a freelance translator or copywriter. When you're using AI as a tool to do repetitive tasks, you get more time to write other texts in a personal way and to give advice to your clients.
Ah, brilliant. So in a way, the AI is best used to automate the repetitive tasks, leaving more room for people like us to use our skills,
Yes.
that the AI can't do. I love that. That's really good. Let me quickly do my lightning questions. I like these, and it's sort of quick answers, and we move on to the next question. What's one piece of advice you wish you had when starting your freelance career?
Maybe wait enough to build a network first. Because I think as a freelancer, a broad network is very crucial in building new projects.
That's great. I love that. What's an underrated skill that has been crucial in your profession?
Being creative and respecting deadlines.
Respecting deadlines. Love it. Is there a unique aspect of your workflow that others might find surprising?
I work out every day. So every day I start my working day with biking or running. And while I'm running or biking, I get new ideas for writing texts. And it often happens that I return home with a whole structure or an outline of a text in my head. The worst thing I think you can do is staying behind your computer and waiting for an idea to come.
I love that. Did you ever have a mentor?
No. But like I said, Lucy, I have a broad network of experts from the past and now. And I frequently contact them to have a sounding board for me. So in various domains, I have some contacts, I have some experts I can contact by phone or by email. It's nice to know that you can rely on these experts to ask a question about a complex topic.
I really love that. In a way, the network is your mentor.
The network is my mentor.
Yeah, you have the support of the work that you've done previously, currently, they're kind of holding you up.
Exactly. And also a network can be a lead machine, because when a client is satisfied about your job, of course, they will send you referrals of other clients or send you prospects who are interested. And
yeah, brilliant. I think I better stop it there before I get you in trouble with your next appointment. So this has been super interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Lucy. Thanks for having me.
Stay in touch.
Bye.
My key takeaway from this chat is that companies need to be taking sustainability communication seriously. Apart from the requirements of regulation, individuals, whether they're employees, investors, or just regular stakeholders, are actively looking for this information. It needs to be presented well, easy to read, backed up with actual data, and also inspire the reader. And if a company wants to avoid greenwashing, they can't just talk about the good things they're doing. They need to be honest about where they're falling short too. What I also found interesting was how Geert thinks about sustainability in his own work life. Every morning he makes sure to either bike or run, and he uses that time to let his mind wander. By the time he sits down at his desk, he's already got a whole outline or structure mapped out in his head. It's a reminder for us in creative industries that sometimes you have to step back to move forward. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap for this episode of Creator Talks by Mediaforta. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share this episode and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. We release new episodes monthly, so hit subscribe so you don't miss a conversation. See you next time. Creator Talks by Mediaforta.